Good afternoon, everybody. This is Armand. Hope you're enjoying a beautiful spring day. It is Thursday, May 16th, 2019, and today I'll be giving the first quarter 2019 update for b.labs and the portfolio companies. It takes us a little bit to get the quarterly reports organized and gather the data from the 7 different companies that are part of the conglomerate here. So our goal is eventually to be able to do the report within the month, right after the quarter ends, but we're just kind of missing the mark by a couple weeks. It's been taking generally about 6 weeks, which is why we're doing this on May 16th. So we're a good way into Q2 already, and there's some updates there as well, which I'll kind of blend into the Q1 update here. So as you can see from the slide that we always start with, it's a picture of the companies and the way everything's structured, with Blue Liner, the agency engine, servicing pretty much all of the portfolio companies. It gives Blue Liner an extra kind of startup vibe to the work we do as an agency, working with and helping to build these startup brands while also maintaining its own just pure pay agency clients that we've had for the 2 decades that we've been in business, as an agency. Some slight changes from last report, where I first started discussing Blue Liner Dubai potential and 2 of the exits of the Adjustco and Advocator ventures. So I'll give updates on those along the way, but while we're on this slide, I think it's the best time to do so. First of all, with Dubai, we had an initial plan to have an equity partnership with our own office and staff and kind of branded company in the region there, to service the MENA region. Instead, since between that time and now, things have gone in a different direction, and instead we're going to start really with more of a partnership strategy. We already have a strong partner in Saudi Arabia, and now we do have another agency partner in Dubai, and instead of having an equity stake, we're planning to engage and service that market and grow, our revenue through partnerships instead of taking on, the whole process and burden. Frankly, there's a cost associated as well when you get involved in an equity partnership in terms of the legal structuring and, office space and things of that nature. So by way of these partnerships, we're able to, avoid some of those expenses and take more of a let's kind of walk before we run approach for that region. So that's the update there. As far as the 2 potential exits, Adjustco's looking very solid. We're beyond verbal agreement. We're in a contract review phase. So again, it's not fully inked on both sides, but the spirit of the agreement is in place. And actually, I'm waiting right now on the current management of Adjustco and their legal team to submit, back to myself and our team for review, final terms. So it looks good. We've structured it in such a way that makes it palatable for them in terms of being able to finance the buyout. What it's going to bring to us, as b.labs is going to be really our next infusion of capital and our first case study in a full circle exit of one of the ventures that we started with from scratch 7 years back. So it'll be bittersweet to have to exit, from a venture that we saw as a baby, as one of its parents from day one. But that's the name of the game here, in labs. It's to grow these ventures and either have them be profitable contributors, back to the mothership, so to speak, or to exit so that we can kind of move on to the next innovation and cycle through over every 3 to 5 years, turn over maybe 1 or 2 companies. So this would be really our first case study in full circle, startup build and then exit. So that's going well. Hoping to have the contract inked up here in the next 2 weeks so that we can go into June and expect within the next 45 to 60 days our first buyout payment and infusion, which will come right on time. Since the initial b.labs infusion of capital, the roughly 1.5 million that we brought in initially between 2017 and 18 has pretty much been fully expended and allocated. And so it's pretty tight at the moment. We're pretty much depending on the revenues of Blue Liner to finance things which aren't necessarily, high enough to do so. So we've had to kind of cut down on a lot of things, slow down the pace of some of our developments and some of our marketing campaigns, which comes with the territory. As a team of ventures and a portfolio, my vision is for these companies to continue to support each other. So when times are tight, everyone has to tighten the belt. Certain projects have to kind of go on the shelf. And in general, we just try to dial things down so that we can cruise a little bit and go in more of a slower pace until something like a new investment, capital infusion, or an exit happens, like in the case that looks like it's upcoming with Justco, and that can kind of reinvigorate and re-energize the ventures, and we can kind of turn up the dial a little bit at that time. So that's the plan. With the Advocator, it's a little less clear. We're still in negotiations with David and Darlene, the co-founders there. We've all agreed, the three of us, that while we've spent $250,000 building the platform for the Advocator, not a lot has happened in the almost year now since it's been ready, mostly because there's really no budget or initiative or really vision for how to market the platform. And where there are hints of vision, there's just not an alignment of philosophy on how to go about that. So I think it's in the best interest of everyone involved that we kind of shift our role to more of a vendor that built a great platform and now sells our stake, our 19% stake, back to the co-founders and new group that they can put together, so they can hopefully carry on and build and launch a successful venture. I think it's a great idea. I'll still continue to report on it as long as it's legally and officially still part of our ownership and portfolio. I just think this would be best for everybody, for us to make a little bit of money back, at least cover our costs from all the development and efforts that we've done. That's only fair. And then we would pare down then from 5 ventures to 3 within the portfolio, which hits home on something that everyone has mentioned and kind of encouraged, since we didn't raise 3, 4, 5 million or 10 million in capital with the little amount that we have. Let's focus on less and do them well than spreading ourselves too thin, which we have been a little bit spread. So having these 2 exits will solve 2 of those issues, giving us less to focus on and giving us some additional capital infusion to be able to go further with the ventures that we still do have close to home. So moving on now, we're going to go into the financial report, the P&L basically for Q1 2019, comparing back to the Q1s for 2018 and 2017, so we can see progression for each company. And I'll also give a little bit of an update on what's happening with each venture. And as promised, I'll do my best. I'm going to try to keep to 30 minutes here for the overall update. So b.labs, again, overall, we're looking at total revenue, which is the combined total revenue for all companies in the portfolio. There's really only 3 now revenue-generating companies. There's Blue Liner, Justco, and 7 Pillars. The others are still in the pre-revenue stage, as most tech startups are. So you can see here Q1 2019, actually the highest total revenue we've had, compared to the last 2 years at 450,000 roughly. And then the weighted revenue would just be our percentage ownership, b.labs percentage ownership, that was shown on the prior slide, multiplied by the overall revenue. So we're at just under 250K for Q1 there. And as far as weighted expenses and then the overall weighted income, we do have our best performing Q1 in the existence of b.labs, which started in 2017. So a loss there of 66,000, which is, as you can see, a little bit better than the loss we had in the previous 2 years. So definitely some progress there. Another good sign of progress you'll notice from this slide is the b.labs operating expenses have been lowered significantly. I usually have such an expansive mentality, and I'm always trying to grow things and push the envelope. In the last 6 months, I've kind of answered the call of cutting down, narrowing down, making some tough decisions, but we've narrowed down significantly. You can see the operating expenses in b.labs down to $12,000 for the whole quarter from $76,000 in the same quarter last year. So that trend continues. Really, the only major operating expense there is the rent, which is about $3K a month, and that's it. Everything else is distributed through Blue Liner and through the portfolio companies, where we've tightened up there as well, as you'll soon see. So that's the b.labs Ventures overall profit and loss Q1 picture. Let's move on to Blue Liner, our anchor. And again, I love it. Actually, Devon from our company here in Blue Liner put it well. 2 decades, we've been doing what we do. And, because we were saying 16 years, 17 years, 18 years, now it's 19 years, and it's moving on 2 decades. So we've been at this for 2 decades, doing what we do, building our expertise. And just some recent highlights and upcoming initiatives. You can see a little snapshot here from our Instagram page, and this really highlights some new life and rebranding that we've done, with the leadership of our creative director, Mustafa, and the team, some young, fresh talent that's come in. Dominica on the social media side, has really helped spark things, and we just did this photo shoot. So you could see a little quick snapshot of behind the scenes of some of the rebranding, which is going to apply to our social media, to our website, to our business cards, to the way we communicate, and really our personal/professional brand, and how we show up, what we stand for, how that's communicated to the marketplace. Not something we focused on in quite a while. And so it's a nice initiative. It gives infusing some energy into the company and even into the culture. And so that's one of our current initiatives that I think is going to bear fruit for us in 2019. We formally landed MediaCom actually right at the end of Q4, but I'll bleed it into Q1 where we really started ramping up the work for them. Obviously, MediaCom is a top 5 cable and internet service provider in the U.S., a multi-billion-dollar company that was at one time public. It's now recently been brought private again. And obviously, MediaCom's founder and CEO, Rocco Commisso, is one of our major investors, pillar investor into b.labs. So it's a close relationship on a number of fronts, but having them as a formal client in Blue Liner is a major victory. And we handle SEO as well as a whole variety of digital strategy and different types of audits for them. We're also pitching SC Johnson, another big major brand that has many sub-brands like Ziploc and Off and Campbell's Soup, others, on behalf of our nonprofit partner, Sips and Kicks. So people think nonprofits sometimes don't have opportunities to make money. Well, they certainly do, because as nonprofits like Sips and Kicks grow, they need all types of marketing and web services. So while we do a lot of volunteer work and donate a lot of time and energy to them, they are also a paying client. And as we're able to land bigger brands that believe in the message and the vision of Sips and Kicks that Chad and Sinan have put together, that's going to put Blue Liner in front of these big brands and have a chance to do larger campaign work. So that's the direction we're moving in. And I think as part of our rebranding and kind of evolution as a 2-decade-old agency based in the world's capital of media, it's time for us to raise our billing rates a little bit as the company and the team matures. So we don't quite have the same model we did 10 years ago as this New York-based firm that had these offshore resources and would do work at like these economical rates below other agencies. We're kind of in the middle of the pack now, if not moving up in terms of our billable rates and what we're truly worth. And it's taken a while to kind of get there mentally and get us believing in ourselves to that level, but we're there now. And it feels good, and it requires us to kind of modify the way we go about bringing on new business. Now, seemingly counter to that, the last point here, that we're introducing these microservice offerings, which allows us to bill smaller ticket items, but still at the increased billing rates. So it's kind of like increase our rates, make sure we get paid properly on an hourly basis or per project basis. But not every project has to be a long-term 6-month, 12-month contract. We can get in there and do consulting projects, trainings, and other things in partnership with 7 Pillars. And that's some of the exciting news that you'll hear. I'll save it for the 7 Pillars portion. But these microservices allow us to kind of get in, get out, get things done, and get paid well for them. Something we really shied away from before that we're more open to now. Looking at the Blue Liner financial picture, wasn't the best of quarters relative to last year. We could see slightly down in total billing and revenue. However, over the last 6-9 months, we've made some major efforts to kind of pare down expenses that might have been, I don't want to say extravagant, but that we can survive without. I'll give an example without naming names. We have someone who was a very good contributor for us on a particular project that when someone's a good contributor, you stick by them, keep them on. They moved on from the team, and we were able to, without bringing on someone new, redistribute our current team from the people that were remaining to handle the project. So when you have a $3,000 to $5,000 a month expense coming off your books, and you don't have to add a new expense on, and you can still get the work done, that's a victory. Increases profitability, allows us to kind of, again, tighten the belt a little bit, which we've needed to do a lot and still need to do a bit more of for the next 2 quarters. So while the total expenses are higher here in 2019 than Q1 2018, if we looked at the last 2 quarters of 2018, you would have seen higher expenses. So we kind of ramped up, and now we're ramping back down and becoming more resourceful and efficient with what and who we still have on board, which I think is the most solid core team we've ever had in the agency. So that's the Blue Liner picture, obviously highly integrated and related to Blue Liner's 7 Pillars and everything we do on the education, consulting, training side. Some very exciting news here. You can see a quote here from the CEO of CHTA, which is the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, really the de facto major association for the whole Caribbean, however you want to say it, but it is the world's #1, if you take the Caribbean as a whole, tourism destination. I think it's over $40 billion in annual revenue to the region. Blue Liner obviously has some major clients in the Cayman Islands and in other Caribbean islands like St. Lucia and Belize over our history. And now we're leveraging that 15 years of tourism marketing experience on an agency level, turning it over into a 7 Pillars product. And so this major press just went out about our partnership, 7 Pillars partnership with CHTA, where they're offering all their members access to this portal, 7pillars.io, where we offer microservices on demand. We call it marketing or marketers on demand, that just like you book an Uber or an Airbnb, you go online, you book a service. It could be a 1-hour service, a 2-hour service, an SEO audit, someone to come fix your Google Analytics. Across all 7 Pillars, literally hundreds of different microservices that we have listed on 7pillars.io. Go check it out, that are available for purchase on an e-commerce basis. And we're focusing on tourism first and tourism only because of this great partnership opportunity with CHTA. Eventually, the vision is to expand that beyond just tourism and open up other channels, other sectors. But what's unique about this is the services actually get done, not just by Blue Liner. This isn't just kind of a clever way to get more agency work and services. It's actually curated by 7 Pillars, and we're building a database of vendors that include other certified, 7 Pillars certified tourism marketers. And so we've already started to add a number of folks outside of Blue Liner's staff because we're planning for this to be big and we can't handle it, the workload, the projected workload on our own. So this is some very exciting news for 7 Pillars. We're also planning to release 2 new books this year as part of our mantra and what we stand for, which is education, continuing education, which in this digital field, as we know, has to be a constant. It's happening every day. New things are changing, new things are happening. So we plan to continue being on top of that with our published books, our ebooks, our webinars, both on a free level as well as corporate paid workshops, as well as our own products. We're planning to actually launch our own first beta version of our SaaS marketing dashboard app by the end of this year. Very excited about those developments. Again, we've had to move things at a little bit of a slower pace because of the budgetary tightness, but nevertheless, things are still moving forward. And as you can see, 7 Pillars has actually started to generate some revenue here. Not a ton, about $5K a month now, and that's just licensing its content, its services, its best practice knowledge to agencies. And in full disclosure, the main client here is an in-house, partner in Blue Liner. So we have 7 Pillars servicing Blue Liner, and Blue Liner paying a fee for that license and access to all that content. And that is basically the model we're looking to replicate by having other agencies also pay into that type of model to license 7 Pillars training and content. Kept the expenses fairly tight. It's almost a break-even quarter, but we do have a pay-in, an advanced commission pay-in for our partnership with CHTA, which is kicking off literally just in May. So that's the picture for 7 Pillars. We'll now look at Timebug, which obviously has its first product, the application that's live on iOS and Google Play Stores, 2020 Live Vision, which already has over 1,000 downloads, even though we're not really promoting it or marketing it in any major public way, just starting to do some App Store optimization and planning a major app and book launch and release in June with PR and supporting other types of supporting marketing. We're doing continuous iteration and improvements to the app with the 2 developers, led by Dan Kurfürst and 1 designer, our main designer on this being Edward Balaz. And we're actually producing some animated commercials, for mobile advertising on Instagram and in-app ad platforms, which is not something we had done so much of previously, and it's one of our kind of evolving skill sets that we're building, the ability to do animations, commercials, explainer videos, things of that nature. So our whole kind of studio and production capability is increasing and improving, as a whole, as an agency in Blue Liner, and we really want to see the benefit of that going to our portfolio companies as well as our clients. And the book's available in Kindle, Audible, and full color, print workbook format. So if you haven't seen it already, I certainly encourage you to take a look and find that on Amazon. And definitely download the app and give us some feedback as we're continuing to improve it. And once this launch happens in June, we're looking to see, if we can get into some major numbers, into like the 50,000 plus downloads by the end of the year, being a goal I'm setting for us. The numbers really don't have much to say because the app is it will eventually be freemium, but for now it's free. Book sales and all that, again, since we haven't started any major marketing or promotion, it's really just one-offs here and there. So we should see this number start ticking up in the back half of the year. And, again, because we have these in-house partnerships between all of our different companies, some of these numbers you see here, like most of the expenses for Timebug, are actually internal expenses of Timebug as a venture paying its own in-house agency partner, Blue Liner, for access to its resources, the developers, the designers, the marketers, myself, that's paid by Blue Liner, but spends a lot of time doing things for Timebug. So we've created transactions that make sense between the different companies to kind of cover cost and get a good understanding of each P&L as an independent venture. So that's how the Timebug numbers look. Move on a little swiftly here as I'm at the 25-minute mark, and I do want to stay around the 30-minute mark for the overall update to make it more digestible and just kind of move the pace a little bit here. So we'll look at KidCoin, and guess what? The crypto market is still alive and well. Never went away, actually. It's just obviously gotten quieter in the media and gone into more of the bashers, bashing Bitcoin and everything as it's tanking and been going down ever since, the highs about maybe 12, 14 months ago when Bitcoin hit 19,000. And obviously, it was a frenzy. It was a bubble. The correction was necessary and needed. But here we come again, with Bitcoin up over 8,000, Ethereum up over 250, and other, major coins as well as a lot of the altcoins also starting to elevate. And that's because in reality, there's greater institutional demand. There's retail news like Starbucks and others coming online, accepting Bitcoin and other cryptos as payments. Blockchain is a technology continuing to evolve and be utilized in all types of creative ways. Big companies like IBM, Amazon, everyone weighing in and building platforms, building teams, hiring leadership for their blockchain and brand new blockchain and crypto departments. Facebook as well has some news and is going to probably have some bigger news in the coming months. Apple, everyone's looking at it, everyone's building a strategy for it, and it is the mainstream future of not just currency, it's kind of a unique, multifaceted asset class. So that's kind of my crypto speech, but as it relates to KidCoin, that's all good news, because that means people won't be as weirded out about, an app for financial literacy for their kids that involves blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's just actually very natural and intuitive that the future, which is our children, would correspond with the future of money and currency and assets. And KidCoin is really the perfect fusion of that. We had to pause development for a little while, as I said, tightening the belt, putting things on the shelf because budgets were tight, still are tight. But we did restart app development within the last 2 weeks, which puts us back into the 60 to 90-day window to have our beta product ready for the market in both iOS and Google Play is our goal, as long as they accept our app, which I believe they will. There's a lot of different crypto-enabled applications already on those platforms, so as long as we, play by the rule book, we should have no problem there. I've lined up a great PR team, actually a very strong individual I know that used to work at some large agencies that's now independent, and hiring his company. I'll name it down the line when that becomes public, but we're looking to start in June, which is very soon, the pre-marketing, so that come, let's say, July, August, when the app is actually available, we could actually start pre-selling the KidCoin tokens, because you won't be able to actually use the application at all as a parent or a kid without actually buying KidCoin tokens with cash, here in the US with dollars. So you put a credit card in and spend, let's say, $1,000, then you'll get 5,000 KidCoins, and you'll start distributing that to your kids for allowance, for birthdays, for other incentives you want to create for them, and so on. I won't recircle back to the app's feature set. We can come back to that another time. But the demos look great. We're very close. And another big piece of news with KidCoin is that beyond this whole kind of token mania that happened with the ICO market and everything a couple of years ago and last year, a lot of us were thinking that we could raise capital that way, and we actually did. We're taking a new view on it at this point, and we're going to be doing a small seed funding round through equity, selling actual equity membership interest units in the LLC in the company for capital in a more traditional fundraising sense. So that's going to open up in June as well. Keep an eye out for that if you're interested in investing and actually owning a piece of ownership in the company, again, which will be separate, completely separate from the KidCoin tokens that you'll use in the platform. So again, not much to say there. We have pared down expenses majorly. Last year at this time, we were spending a lot traveling, going to trade shows to kind of try to amp up for an ICO, which really never happened, and we've completely put on the shelf. And at this point, it's been, again, mostly in-house expenses to Blue Liner and Blue Liner staff, and one external development company for hire that's based in the Ukraine that's helping us with our development. So that's where those Q1 expenses are going for KidCoin. So that covers all the ventures that I believe are going to be remaining in the portfolio for the calendar year. But even with Adjustco, we'll keep looking at it even as the buyout gets consummated. Again, hopefully, as I said, within the next several weeks. The way we've structured it, they're going to be buying us out over a 2.5-year period of time with 10 quarterly payments. So technically speaking, that would put us in a position where we still have some ownership for a period of time. So I have to decide how we're going to report on that once the buyout actually starts moving through. But in the meantime, it's still a full holding, and we are one of the largest shareholders in the company. And the company's doing well. This company's doing well. 2019 should be the first profitable year. AdjustLock has finally, gone to the next level, knocking on these doors for enough time, and finally we got through to Tractor Supply, which is huge. Thousands of stores across the U.S., growing quickly. Finally put us in all their stores in 2 different locations, including this picture you can see here. It's called an aisle invader that kind of really is prominent because it sticks out. You kind of have to really walk right by it instead of it being kind of flat in the planogram. So we're also in the planogram, but we got this aisle invader as well in the gate section, which is excellent. And we're also expanding quite nicely into Home Depot. They're finally expanding SKUs, adding some of the slide bolts and other items. So Jason and Jamie and the team is working really hard. Certain things just do take their own time, and with AdjustLock, it's been a slow grind, but it's finally bearing fruit, which you'll see in the numbers. We've had our best quarter and 2 quarters back-to-back in a while. This new product, Anchor Thread, for a whole different industry, not a Home Depot item, but more of a direct sale to engineering firms, construction development companies. So it's really part of the construction product and supply industry. And it's a pretty revolutionary item. I've featured it in previous reports. And they're making some traction. Still don't have any major sales and deals, but very close there. So I think the company's doing well, going to be profitable for the first time this year. And honestly speaking, good timing for our exit. I think we've kind of done our part to build a brand that's now recognized and reputable in a couple of different industries, and that's what we do. That's what we do. And whether we stick with the company and grow it, that's a strategic decision. In this case, I think the other companies being more tech-centric and having a lot more opportunities in terms of the value and the multiple, but really in terms of the market penetration that we can have, we're making the strategic choice to sell our stake here and move it into the other ventures, the proceeds from that. But you can see here Adjustco's done quite nicely, relatively speaking, having a large sales quarter in Q1, and Q2 is going to be even better because a lot of orders, POs, actually came in at the end of Q1 or within Q1 that we technically don't count on the books until we ship the items and then send the invoices to the clients. So Q2 should be well over 250 as well. So I think it's going to be a good year for Adjustco. As you can see, they've also pared down expenses in a major way, getting us closer to profitability. So I do believe they'll have a profitable 2019. So, congrats to the management team for that. Last but not least, certainly the Advocator. I don't actually have detailed updates, just the financials, but as noted, there just hasn't been a lot of activity, and that's been disappointing, I think, to everyone involved. And, I think the company just needs a shakeup, and I think the part of that shakeup that makes sense would be for us to, get the co-founders fully back in the saddle, sell our stake for at least a break-even scenario from the money that we invested to build this brand and platform, and allow them to take that technology forward and do something hopefully productive with it before the 2020 election season comes and all the political turmoil reaches its media boiling point. It's really a perfect time over the next 12 months for the Advocator to enter the market. So wish those guys nothing but well, but again, we are still technically, legally, a 19% owner, and until we're able to find a good negotiation and sell our stake, we have a responsibility to continue reporting on it and continue thinking about how we could make use of the underlying technology, if nothing else. So our wheels are turning. We have a plan B and C that I won't discuss now, but really plan A is to sell b.labs stake back to the founders and their other partners and investors that they can put together. As far as our b.labs investors that also invested separately in the Advocator, that one's a little tricky. I'm encouraging the founders to look at that, and if we're able to get our exit negotiated, that they also consider offering some of you all exit opportunities as well. So be in touch with me about that if you are one of our b.labs stakeholders that also invested directly in the Advocator, and know that I am also going to be working on your behalf to make sure your investment is well addressed and taken care of and returned in some kind of profitable fashion. We all know the risks associated with investing in startups, but that's the whole purpose of the b.labs portfolio, to kind of diversify that risk across a number of ventures. But those of you that chose to put in some funds directly in, obviously higher risk, higher reward, I'm going to work and fight for you to make sure there's some kind of positive outcome for you. As you can see, it's not much activity, not much in the way of sales or expenses, just some web hosting and accounting expenses, things of that nature, filing taxes. And that's pretty much it, because the company doesn't have a ton of resources. So that is the full picture, guys. I went 5 minutes over, but I think it was the shortest that I've done so far. I'll keep working on it. And as we get these exits with Adjustco and the Advocator, that will definitely make it shorter, because I have less companies to report on. But you never know. Once we have this exit and some funding starts flowing in, I may very well be introducing 1 or 2 new ventures. There's already a lot percolating and things that want to come in, but we're just not really in a position to support anything besides what we have. The plate's already very full, so we're trying to clear some things off, reportion and rethink our kind of overall portfolio here, and really optimize it and do well with the companies we have on board. So again, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions at all, once you view this presentation or see the actual PDF version of the report, which we'll also make available, feel free to reach out. And until next quarter, have a great spring and early summer.